Alright, so in this video we are going to do our compound path on our very first artboard right here. So first I'm going to reset my essentials. So if you ever find that your toolbars and stuff are out of place and not where they're supposed to be, you can always come up here to the top right and click Essentials and click Reset Essentials, and it'll put them back the way that they're supposed to be. So I went ahead and did that real quick. And now what I'm going to do is I want to use the type tool, which is the letter T over here on the toolbar. I can click it or hit the letter T on the keyboard to get to it. And then I am going to click one time here on my artboard and type in the first letter of my first name. Okay? And then I'm going to hit Control A to select that letter, or you can highlight it with your mouse. And I'm going to come over here when we get the new version that I have, Adobe Illustrator CC. These will be over here because they've moved character over here to the side panel. But for you guys, it's across the top up here. And around the center of the screen, there will be an orange word that says character, that if you click on it, gives you these same settings right here. Okay, so we're going to type in our box that says 12 PT for our font size. We're going to erase that and we're going to type in 150 and hit the enter key so that it'll go ahead and make our font pretty large on our artboard. Don't worry if it's hanging off the artboard, that doesn't matter because we can move it. So we're going to come over here and click our selection tool, which is the black arrow, and we're just going to drag this down to where it's about the center of our artboard. It doesn't have to be exact. Okay. And then we're going to choose a font, and so we can do the little drop down under character for a font. We have over 1,000 fonts installed, and so my advice is to pick a simple bold font that's going to be easy to do for your first vinyl decal. Don't make it complicated. Keep it super simple, and don't use the whole class period looking for a font, because literally you could spend days going through all the fonts that are on here. Just choose one real quick, under 5 minutes, and go with whatever. If you haven't found one after 5 minutes, then just pick something. But don't leave it on the default font, the Myriad Pro, because I want to see that you've actually looked through the fonts and chosen something. So I'm going to don't pick something like this that has these little spots and stuff in here that are like something that's distressed, because that won't work well on the vinyl cutter. Don't pick anything that's really cursive-y or thin. You want a big, bold, nice, bold font, okay? But something that's going to be simple, all right? Even something like this may or may not be easy depending on the letter of your name. So I'm just going to look down through here real quick and see if I can find something. This might not be bad. I'll go ahead and pick it just to pick something real quick. All right, once I have my letter here, I need to change it from a font, because if I open this up on another machine and the person or the machine that we open it up on doesn't have the same font installed, it's going to pop up an error that they can't read the file. Okay, this is really important, like if we're sending it off somewhere to have stickers made or shirts or posters or whatever we're doing, to always change it from a text or a font type to a vector image. Okay, so to do that, we can do that one of two ways. We can come up here to type and come down to create outlines, okay, or we can simply just click on it with the right mouse button and click create outlines that way. Okay, I'm going to hit Control Z and undo that. So anytime you do something you didn't mean to do, Control Z will become your best friend in class. It's the undo button, because I want to show you what I'm actually doing here. So when I look at this from the vinyl cutter's perspective, if I hit Control Y on my keyboard, it goes into outline mode, and this is what the vinyl cutter sees. So right now this letter is black because it is still a font, and so I want to change that to a vector image. So when I right click on it and I say create outlines, notice how it changes to outlines now, and this is what the vinyl cutter sees and can read. So if you ever hit Control Y and yours is solid black, that means you have not turned it into a vector image yet, and you need to make sure that you go back and do that step. I can get back out of this mode by just hitting Control Y again on my keyboard, And on this screen, it should be black or whatever color I have chosen for it to be, okay? The next thing that I want to do is I want to add a shape on top of this that we're going to use, okay? So I am going to come over here on my toolbar to the left. For you guys, this will be set by default as the rectangle, most likely over here. And anything that has this little white triangle on it, on the bottom right corner, means that there are more tools hiding behind it. So if I left click and hold down the left mouse button, this little flyout comes out, this pop-up window that shows other tools that are here, okay? So I don't want to use the flare tool, which you guys will see underneath your star tool. Don't use that one. Choose one of these, the rectangle or the ellipse or the polygon or the star tool. And if I'm using the polygon or the star tool, I can tell it to do however many sides I want it to do. So I'm just going to pick the star tool, and once I've picked one of my shape tools, I'm just going to click one time on my artboard so that it pops up this pop-up screen right here. My last settings are still saved in here, but I'm going to tell it to do 19 points on my star, okay? I chose my radius to be 1 inch for my radius number 1, and my radius 2 I chose to be 0.9 inches. You can put this to whatever you want it to be, okay? When I click OK, it's going to make my shape, and to move that, anytime I want to move something, I always have to go back up here to my selection tool and my black arrow. I'm going to move that over my letter, and then I want to size it to fit my whole entire artboard, because otherwise I'm wasting all of this space right here in vinyl. I'm wasting that material because it's going to cut this whole white area right here, and I don't want it to do that. I want to save as much material as possible. So I'm going to hold down the shift key on the keyboard to keep my shape proportional, because if I don't hold that down, my shape's going to end up tall and skinny or short and fat. Okay, so I'm going to hit Control Z twice to get that back the way it was. But if I hold down shift, it's going to keep its proportions. So I want to drag it as close to the edge as possible without it actually touching the edges of my artboard. Okay, so I'm just stretching that out while I'm holding down the shift key. Okay, once I have that, my letter is still there, it's hiding underneath it, and to be able to see that, we need to hold down our left mouse button outside of our artboard. So up here to the left corner of our artboard in the gray area, we're going to click and hold down the left mouse button, and we're not going to let go. We're going to drag it diagonally down to our bottom right corner, and you can see just barely that little dotted square that goes around everything. So our imaginary rectangle there, or square in this case, and I'm going to let go. And when I do that, it's going to select any objects that are on that artboard, so both my letter and my shape, which is what I want it to do. Because now I want to turn it into a compound path. So to turn it into a compound path, I have to come up here to Object and come down all the way almost to the bottom where it says Compound Path, and click Make, which is Control 8 on my keyboard if I wanted to use the shortcut for it. So I'm going to hit Make. When I do that, it's going to change it to look like this, and that is what it's supposed to look like. So that's going to finish artboard number 1, our compound path. And we always, while we're working on this, definitely before we close out of it to sign out for class, we always want to save and save often. So you can use the keyboard shortcut to do this, which is Control S, to save that. Or you can come up here and go to File, Save, either way, because I just did Control S. You can see it's grayed out, which means it's saved the most recent copy. There's nothing for me to save. Okay, we're going to stop this video here, and I will make another one that shows you guys how to do our exclude option over here on our second artboard. So stay tuned.